My name is Lauren Thomas. I'm the Operations Manager at Dress for Success Atlanta. And I have the pleasure today of speaking with Josie Thomas for our Your Hour, Her Power Women's History Month campaign. Josie worked at CBS Corporation for 34 years and retired from her position as Executive Vice President, Chief Diversity and Inclusion Officer in 2020. She also happens to be my mom, and I'm very happy to have her here today to talk about what it means to be a woman in power and how she ascended to that title during her career. Welcome, Mom.
Welcome. Thank you very much. I'm really, truly honored to get this recognition for Dress for Success Atlanta and to engage in this really important conversation, especially with you. So thank you to the entire Dress for Success Atlanta team, Susan and the rest of the team for this wonderful opportunity.
Thanks for being here. So let's start by telling everyone about how you got into your career, who mentored you, inspired you along the way, that helped you get to where you did.
Yes, I mean, my life mentors, of course, are my parents, and they provided the kind of support and encouragement that made it possible for me to think anything was possible. And so I always like to begin with acknowledging their contribution. When I went to law school and, I knew I wanted to be in the media business, but I wanted to be in-house inside a media corporation. But when you graduate from law school, you need to spend some time learning some actual skills because law school doesn't necessarily teach you a real life experience. And so what I tell people sometimes is careers don't go in one direction. There might be a different roads you need to take to get to the spot where you ultimately want to be. So I then took on a career as a litigation associate at a law firm in New York and had a wonderful woman partner mentor. She was strong. She knew how to take control of a room, and she knew what she was doing. And so I really admired those skills, and they were ones that I took with me. I then went to an intellectual property law firm, which is one that's a little closer to the media industry. And again, found a absolutely fabulous woman partner who became a mentor to me. And she had another style. She didn't necessarily confront people the way my first mentor had. So I got an opportunity to see two different leadership styles and was able to incorporate them into my life when I moved to CBS as broadcast counsel. So I did eventually end up where I wanted to be, which was in-house lawyer at CBS. And again, there, I had my first boss was a dynamic, very interesting woman who really had her own style, her own presence, and she was comfortable in that space. So I again had another role model that was inspirational in terms of saying, you don't have to lead with a certain style, but what you do have to do is know who you are and what you're doing. So, so that was the beginning of my career at CBS, which then went on to be head of business affairs for CBS News. So I had, a great opportunity to work with some fabulous journalists, many of which were women. And then I got the opportunity, I think, of a lifetime, which was to take on the role of a head of diversity and inclusion at CBS. And it was a role that did not exist before that time. So every single element of it was something that I had to come up with and implement and get support around from all the stakeholders in the organization. So, that was one that I thought, when I look back, I was preparing for my entire life. And I feel that that's where I found my passion.
That's great. It's great to have had the opportunity to be around really strong women who are sort of leading in your industry, particularly because it was so male dominated, especially, some years ago. So you had the real benefit of getting into spaces where you actually saw other women who were in leadership positions. And I think a lot of what we do at Dress for Success Atlanta is try to show our clients what it looks like to lead. And so that they, if they don't already have those mentors and folks to look toward, that they find them when they become clients with us. So that's really important. And I think a lot of women, unfortunately, don't have that. And so I think that that is one of the magical things about Dress for Success. So I'm happy to hear that you have that coming up.
Right. No,
Yeah.
leadership is so critical.
Yeah.
Having people feel comfortable with leadership roles and having the support that they need around them to take on additional tasks, and be prepared for those tasks. You have to be ready for it. So you spend time preparing, but leadership is something where you need somebody to empower you to say, you can do this. We know you can do this. So I'm going to let you do this, and you can take this project on and you will own it. I will be here to support you, but you can own this particular task.
Absolutely. And as we say, right, representation matters. It really does.
Right.
So our Her Power campaign is rooted in the belief that empowered women build strong communities. They're the foundation of successful businesses, and especially with businesses growing when they're successful, prosperous economies. You were nominated as someone who embodies not only that success, but through your career, continued to reach back and support other women behind you. So what are some of the ways that you did that through your career? What are some ways that you empowered women, and why was that important to you?
Yeah, I mean, it's almost as satisfying as your own success to see somebody who you are empowering become successful. It really, particularly at different points in my career, it was what made me smile and get up in the morning and think about the next important task for anybody I was working with or trying to empower. And so one of the ways I would do it, I would say, what do you want to own? We've got a whole big portfolio of issues and challenges and initiatives and programs. And from your vantage point, from your viewpoint, because your viewpoint is valuable. You might, you're early in your career, or maybe you're mid-career, whatever, but your viewpoint is important. So what do you see as what we can do in this portfolio? What do you want to own? And then take that on. So that's how you empower people. They also then feel comfortable interfacing with colleagues because they feel comfortable in what they're responsible for. And they take that with them to their next position and carry it with them forever. I've had opportunities to have people write back to me and say, it was because you did this that I'm able to do that. And again, there's nothing more satisfying than that.
I feel really blessed because obviously I'm your daughter and I am grandma's granddaughter, and I also have found a really wonderful boss. And so I think that being surrounded by women who believe you can and sort of say, these are the things, these are the challenges, these are the opportunities really for you. So take what you can and own it, find something in that speaks to you and go with it and take it. And I trust you. And I think that is absolutely transformative, especially when you're trying to sort of find your feet as a woman, in your career.
Right. And that word trust, Lauren, is such an important word. And I had made a note to myself to mention it because having somebody say, I trust you. I trust that you can handle this. And obviously, if something comes up that you feel you need some feedback on, I'm here. But I think for a lot of women at different points in their career, they're not used to hearing that word, I trust, or that concept of being trusted. Right. And that their judgment is good judgment. And so go with it. Yeah.
So you held a lot of important roles in the corporate world. You were on the forefront of the diversity, equity, and inclusion conversation, as well as its implementation. And you continue to use sort of your deep knowledge of those spaces in your various board service post-retirement. What is something that you would tell other women who are growing into their professional selves, constructing the vision of what they want from their careers? What are some things that you think are important to keep in mind as you sort of make this decision? Because we all kind of come to places where we can go, one way or we can go another way, and sort of what are some grounding questions or concepts that you think are important to sort of help you as you navigate which way you want to go?
I mean, I think that the notion that you need to know what room you're in, being prepared for the next opportunity and feeling comfortable that you are prepared, that you know who's in the room, you know who your audience is, and you're putting your best foot forward. So I always say, back to the trust thing, trust yourself, trust your preparation, trust that you are paying attention and that you know what the dynamics are. And again, that's sometimes where a woman mentor or can be enormously helpful, because sometimes there are cues going on in the room or messaging going on in the room, and you don't pick up on it because you don't know the language yet. So you need somebody to help you navigate those language situations, and sometimes they're not verbal.
Right.
So you need to be able to look to that. So I often tell people, pay attention. And I know it's a hard thing to do because we all have these devices and we spend an enormous amount of time looking down instead of looking up. I tell people, look up, see what's going on, or you're going to miss something. And so I encourage people to, trust themselves, be prepared, pay attention, ask for responsibility when you feel that you're ready for it, and reach out if somebody doesn't hand it to you. That means they might not be paying attention. But if you raise your hand and say, I'd really like to do this, I think more often than not, somebody's going to say, great, run with it. But then you have to take responsibility for it. You have to make sure that it's something you feel strongly about. People often mention the thing about find your passion. I know it's overstated, but I think, as you look at what way to navigate, do I go to the left or go to the right? You have to sit with yourself for a little bit of time and say, who am I? What feels right to me? And then you go that way. And if you have to, change or adjust or make another decision at some later point, then that's okay too. But I think you have to kind of get comfortable with yourself and know who you are.
I think it's also really important to recognize that sometimes when you sit with yourself and you're quiet, the decision that you're making may not always be the one that you're drawn to, may not always be the most comfortable, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's not the right one for you, because sometimes you got to get uncomfortable to get where you're going, right? And sort of push yourself in a way that you may not necessarily know how to navigate, but that you can sort of, again, going back to that trust idea, trust yourself to say, I can handle this. I'm not comfortable yet, but I will get there. And I'm willing to sort of step out on this limb and take this opportunity.
Absolutely. And you know what? That's when you feel the most, you feel best about your accomplishments. When you've pushed yourself a little bit into a space that it isn't easy, because, quite honestly, life isn't easy. We all know that. And and the best feeling you can get is when you've accomplished something that you weren't really initially sure you could do. But then you find the way and you have somebody who says you can do that. So, so yes, you're so right. Sitting with yourself and sometimes feeling a little uncomfortable about the way you want to go. So, but that's good. Discomfort can be good.
Yeah. Well, Mom, I really appreciate you doing this. I thank you for being here. It was really an honor for me to nominate you and also get to interview you for the campaign. So thanks a lot. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Lauren. It was absolutely my treat and my honor and my privilege. So thank you very much.
Absolutely. So an hour of your pay can help a woman gain access to education, job service resources, and that can be invaluable as we've been talking about through this campaign, to helping her support herself and her family. So if you want to do that, please go to atlanta.dressforsuccess.org, or you can also go to our Women in Power site at one.bidpal.net/Women in Power and pledge your hour today. Thanks for watching.